and she's a sex worker. In 2017, as one of the field organizers for Equality Texas, she helped kill the Texas bathroom bill, SB 6. Fuck yeah, thank you for all of your work.
Slay, Valentina!
Let's slay. You ready to come up here, bitch? All right, take it away, everybody. Round of applause for Valentina.
Hi, y'all. I'm from Texas. Hey, okay. I'm actually gonna put it on the stand, because otherwise I'm gonna be like, "Rrr." I'm a little ADHD. I might drop it. Okay. I actually wrote it out for y'all. I have this cute little selfie / stand. First, let's give it up to y'all for coming out here. Even if you weren't saying anything out there, thank you for being here in the first place, because that's more than what most people are willing to do. So thank you so much, especially to the allies that are out here, and especially to the organizers as well. Thank you so much. Okay, so am I clear? Can everybody hear me?
We can hear you!
Okay, cool, let's go. I'll press this little button. It's gonna record a video of me too, so I'm gonna put it on YouTube or something like that. Transgender women, especially transgender women of color, are made into whores by our nation that in turn subjects us to inhumane conditions from which there is no foreseeable escape. In response to the material conditions to which I am subject by virtue of my assemblage of identities as a transgender woman of color, I advocate for the full decriminalization of sex work in order to enable me to have access to the legal structures that have so far only precluded me from recourse for the times I've been assaulted, raped, robbed, harassed, and stalked. I want to begin by addressing the ugly side of sex work, followed by an analysis of the system of oppression that in conclusion is dismantled by the decriminalization of sex work. The primary motivational factors for becoming a sex worker are in one way or another poverty and drug addiction. The conditions from which these factors typically arise are discrimination, abandonment, abuse, lack of formal education, and the inability to acquire a job that pays an actual living wage. While entering is a choice for some of us, it is a predetermined fate for the rest. For me, what began as a choice while I lived as a cisgender man later became my only option as a transgender woman. As such, and as a transgender woman, my relationship with sex work is both complicated and complex. And this is my story. My introduction to the world of sex work was rather recently as a webcam model for Chatterbait in late 2015. I did so because I wanted to have an outlet to express my newfound comfort as a female gender as a self-reported crossdresser. The beautiful side of camming was it enabled me to discover myself in an accepting environment in which being transgender was celebrated. Camming helped me acquire the courage to come out as a transgender woman. During the spring 2016 semester of graduate school at the University of Houston, go Cougs, I decided to hormonally transition from male to female because I just couldn't hold back much longer. However, in doing so, I realized rather quickly the harsh reality that I was to transition into a specific type of woman, a transgender woman, and with that came a set of unwritten rules I had to follow before being able to enter back into society as my newly found self. Almost immediately after transitioning, camming became my only option as my newfound identity as a transgender woman effectively demoted me to the status of a second-class citizen in our society. Come the end of spring 2016 semester of grad school, I needed to find a place to stay, and I did. But the man who promised me a place to stay ghosted on me, of course, 2 weeks before my lease ended at my on-campus apartment. As a result, I was left without stable housing throughout the summer of 2016. Mind you, this was all while completing my final semester of grad school. I spent the summer couch surfing. Online was my only means of making money because I moved 8 times in the span of 4 months, and therefore finding a physical address to call my workplace would be futile in a city as large as Houston, where it takes like 30 to an hour just to go across the city. As a result, Chatterbait became my sole means of supporting myself, which meant I was subject to the internet speeds of the 8 different temporary homes in which I stayed. I graduated soon thereafter, but only a few months into transition, I was encouraged to apply for positions at companies in Texas that lack anti-discrimination policies that protect the expression of one's gender identity, which meant because I hadn't legally changed my name and gender marker, which is really hard to do in Texas, my fellow employees and boss would call me by my dead name, aka my form name, without any legal repercussions. For those of you who aren't aware, in the state of Texas, there are currently no protections afforded to transgender individuals. It is 100% legal to evict, deny service, and employment from someone simply on the basis of their gender identity or sexual orientation. It's true. Not only did I lack legal protections, but I also lacked the confidence with my appearance because of my encounters with the rest of the world. In the first 6 months of transitioning, I was harassed and or made fun of on a daily basis. People would literally laugh at my face and snicker and stare at me. I felt like everyone knew I was wearing a wig, and I had to wear so much makeup to hide my thick, dark facial hair that casted a shadow no razor could eliminate. During this time, I was invited to shoot with a porn company groupie. Give it up to them. At the time, I gathered sex work was still my best option, even with a graduate degree. I pursued porn, which shortly thereafter led to escorting to keep up with the image porn required of me to maintain. But I've since given up escorting for my own personal reasons. But my point is not that. My point is the irony of the fact that the very society that effectively forced me into sex work is doing everything it can to ensure I can never escape poverty by further oppressing me with bills aimed at protecting women who were forced into sex work. Though sex work felt like my only option at the time I started, I will fight to ensure that I am not victimized by the state. They should not have the authority to make things harder for me when they, primarily through their lack of protections for rights that would allow me to maintain stable employment, are the reason why I'm here in the first place. I've decided that I am not a victim, but I am a survivor, and the state wants to trap me in a cycle of oppression and poverty, and bills like FOSTA, SESTA, among others, attempt to further subjugate me to oppression. The definition of cruelty is hitting someone who is already down, and these bills aim to do just that. We are not victims, but they are doing everything they can to victimize us. Just this week, my PayPal account was shut down. I've already experienced revenue losses as a result. Under its acceptable use policy, PayPal may not be used for certain sexually oriented materials that it considers obscene. Next, they're out for our bank accounts. Just in April, the House passed a bill self-righteously entitled In Banking for Human Trafficking Act. Which would pressure banks to down the accounts of traffickers, according to their definition of that, which only encourages banks to lead a witch hunt, killing off those accounts that they fear to be under the spell of forced prostitution, though failing to realize that they themselves set up the very conditions through which the passage of life-threatening pieces of legislation that make an already vulnerable population even more marginalized. The best solution to a problem inherent in a system that subjects certain identities to sex work is disenfranchising those who reign over our bodies. In this case, the legal authority vested in efforts to criminalize my very identity. Decriminalizing prostitution is the only effective means of dismantling the power and reorienting ourselves to new frontiers from which sex work is dealt as a social issue and not a criminal one. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm glad that y'all are receptive to that. I really do appreciate that. I know it's a little bit different, and I'm glad that y'all caught on to what I was saying. All right, y'all got questions, talk to me on Twitter or something. VOUS Valentina, I love y'all.